your broadcast. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, Carrie. Carrie, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're ready to go, Jenny.
Amazing. I apologize for the delay. I just had a bit of trouble logging into my own webinar. All right. Carrie, do you mind handing me back the power to share my screen and then we'll kick things off?
Okay, it should be right back over to you, Jenny.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay. I'm just checking. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, your screen's coming in.
Okay.
Everybody will be muted. So if anybody has any questions, you'll notice that there are questions in there. Thanks, Matt, for saying we can see the screen. I will be answering questions as we go through, and Jenny will kind of get started, and I will do my best to answer them and share as much information as possible.
Absolutely. Okay, let's formally welcome everybody now that everybody can see my screen. So I just want to welcome to everybody to today's Project Management and Tasking Reporting webinar. My name is Jenny Lee, and I will be leading the presentation along with Carrie, who will be, of course, as she mentioned, answering questions in today's chat, and of course, jumping in from time to time with her own insights as well, too. We all work with different types of clients, and we all have different perspectives of things. I think that kind of the key message today we'll be learning about is how to just better manage projects and jobs for many clients a little more effectively. And secondly, learn how much work your team can take on in a simple way you can stay on top of things. And so kind of the outline of today that we're going to learn on is essentially best practices when it comes to managing all your jobs through several clients. And then we'll kind of review resourcing as well too through two sources. So we got the resource link and the work planning view. And lastly, we're going to touch base a bit on task reporting and how we can kind of get a quick status update from everybody for our Monday mornings, for example. And just a reminder, any questions you have goes into a chat box, and Carrie will do her best to answer all of them. Now, if they're very specific, of course, your CSM, a customer success manager, will be reaching out to you directly following up after this presentation as well, too. All right, let's get started. So I'm actually already logged into my system. What we're going to touch base on quickly is just a reminder that you can host a meeting based off of your dashboards, just simply by configuring it through a few filters that we might have. This dashboard I particularly set up, I would call kind of a traffic dashboard. And what we're essentially looking at right now, I have it configured to show all of my tasks. And I just wanted to point out a few cool features here. You can actually filter this to show, for example, maybe I just want to see what all my designers are up to, or I want to see what the whole agency is up to. You have full control of that, but it really breaks it down to you can hover over the task itself to see the task details, hover over the job to get a quick refresher of the job details and which client it belongs to. Of course, you can see your start and due date, but what I really want to focus your attention on is on the right-hand side here. You can see estimated versus actual dollars, and you can see the variance in that. Not only that, of course, if you use priorities on tasks, you can, of course, put the priority as high. And this right here is actually great for best practices. Each person can go in here and actually put in their actual percentage of completion for a task as well too. And actually, we notice here this task is really in the red. For example, we can see here it was past due. It was originally due for November 19th. We're an hour over estimated time, but we're only still about 70% complete. So maybe it's time to kind of dig into this task and see whoever was assigned to it to see what's going on. Whether or not we have to realign the client's expectations, or maybe it's an internal problem that we got to sort out. And of course, some other cool features up here is maybe you want to kind of filter things out and just focus on all your tasks due in the next 7 days, or all the tasks due for the whole company in the next 7 days if you're a project manager. Or if you're hosting a meeting, maybe you want to focus on all the things due for one client. So maybe our client here is Great Atlantic Insurance. We can filter all that out and see that actually they only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tasks due for them. And so far we're pretty good except for the 2 that are in red here, so maybe we might want to tackle that right away. So as you can see here, just from this task list alone, if you're hosting a meeting to get a status update on how everybody's doing, where everybody's at with their tasks, just simply by filtering it through company name, selected staff, or status of the task itself, you can have full, robust discussions around that. And I just want to, before I kind of jump out of dashboards, I just want to point out 2 other widgets as well too. What's kind of cool is, for example, jobs by company summary down here. Now, it's automatically, if you select this widget as to be a part of your dashboard, it's going to automatically filter for all jobs, and it's going to automatically auto-select 5 of your jobs that have the most work. Now, of course, a lot of folks forget that you can actually have filtered this information. You can go in here and maybe just focus on your jobs, or you can even go in here and have a custom selection of your top 5 clients. So for example, maybe we actually have a lot of internal projects going on right now, and I want to make sure I include in my own company right here, function point, and submit. And what's kind of nice is, for example, this kind of gives you a quick, so what the data itself in the bars that you're looking at is, for example, I'm going to focus on Great Atlantic Insurance. The value that you're getting here is you can see all your deliverables you have due for Great Atlantic Insurance from a bird's eye view. So right away we can see here we have 7 jobs, 1 job nearing budget, and 1 job actually over. And to dive a little deeper from the bird's eye view, we can simply just click on this, and it's going to take us to that 1 job that was over estimated budget. And just from this page alone, you can get a quick snapshot of what's going on and click into the folder to further investigate and figure out the action items to get on top of that job. And same idea with the last tile down here in the bottom right here, task summary. And this just kind of gives you a quick overview of everything that's going on in your agency task-wise. Once again, it's going to kind of revert to all staff, but don't forget you can come in here and play around with the settings. But this just kind of, I think the whole idea of this dashboard here is once you get accustomed to all the colors, just from an at glance, you'll be able to easily prioritize where you should focus your day, essentially anything that is in the red. Now, before I kind of jump off from dashboards onto kind of another way to kind of search and find all active jobs, Carrie, I just want to check in. Are there any questions we can showcase in today's webinar?
So far, it's just a question with regards to getting a copy, and you will get a link to a copy of the webinar, and it will be posted. What you may want to touch on, Jenny, is a little bit about kind of, we're showing the dashboard, but quickly show where they can create the dashboard before you dive into the tasks and to-dos.
Absolutely. I kind of bulldozed right over that. So this is just one configurement of dashboards that we could have, but in the top right corner here, if I click on this, you can see here I've saved several dashboards to toggle back and forth between, depending on which hat I'm wearing. We all know in agencies we're jumping around quite often, and you can easily go in here and customize your own dashboard. I'm just going to actually select on the traffic one I had created just to show you the breakdown of it. I had chosen a specific layout that would speak to me. And to get that task list view, I selected tasks and to-dos, which spans across the whole dashboard. And below there was the jobs by summary, jobs by company summary. And right beside it, I had selected task and time summary to kind of give me an overview of all the tasks happening in the agency. As you can see inside the customized dashboard feature, there are possibly hundreds of configurations you can have for yourself, and you can save several of these dashboards to toggle back and forth between. Now, that being said, I really don't, I also do want to give some credit and focus on the job find feature as well too, as another option to kind of search all active jobs within Function Point. So the dashboard's great to kind of start off your day and figure out what's going on, but the job find is also an easy way to search all active things going on and get a quick status update. So for example, in the job find, as you notice here, there are many fields you can filter it down by. Maybe, for example, I just want to build a report for all jobs that I'm in charge of. And I might want to filter out by my name. Or you know what, maybe we have a Monday morning status meeting and I just want to find all active jobs to kind of get everybody a quick update of what's going on. When I select all active jobs, it really breaks it down for me. As you can see here, I can see the job folder, when it's due, estimated versus actuals, the variance in hours, and a quick description that I can easily update. Of course, you can go ahead and print this to bring to your Monday morning meeting. Now, kind of the best practices for this is actually you can put this into editable list view. So if I did a find here for all the jobs that I'm responsible for updating everybody in that meeting, that weekly meeting that you might have, by putting an editable list view, I can actually quickly go in here and update the descriptions or maybe the status of the job as well too. So it's kind of nice in the editable list view because you don't have to actually click into every job to update the description or the status. Now, in regards to best practices for, you notice I did an all active job search. Now, a good exercise to do is to go in here often, find all your active jobs, and make sure you really just keep this clean. To make sure all the statuses are up to date and it actually is an active job. The reason being is a lot of this actually flows into your reports as well. Okay. And actually, before I kind of wrap up the job search find, I actually had this on default for estimated actuals, but some actually might find value. If we go in here and we select manage the columns, as you can see, I can go in here and actually view things. Maybe you do care about the estimated and actual hours, but you also want to bring into the meeting the estimated and actuals in finances, dollars as well too. So there's a lot of room for customization here. You can go in here and actually drag around the columns so the data speaks. So the data is presented however you want it to be presented. Now I'm just going to show you how that looks like in print as well too. As you can see here now, just with a few clicks of the button, the report has been updated to not only show estimated versus actual hours for each job, but also the dollars and cents as well too. Well, before I wrap up kind of the job find view, Carrie, just doing a quick check-in again for any questions or maybe any comments that you might have.
If you could actually go back to the editable list view, I did have one question with regards to kind of that date description box. Mm-hmm. So really that date description box is not your job description. So a lot of times what happens is customers will use that date description to put in notes with regards to the status. The other thing that Jenny had touched on was really that status. If you click on that status of that top job that you have there, Jenny, this is also a way when you're sitting down in your production meeting, and you know that a job has closed and you haven't done it yet, what you can do is you can mark that as closed. So it's a way for you to kind of adjust that in real time instead of having to go into each individual job.
Perfect. So just kind of wrapping up the job list view, I think in summary, it is a really just quick and easy way to pull up a report of all the jobs that you are responsible and give everybody a quick status update and update in real time during the meeting as well too. Definitely, sometimes this gets overlooked within Function Point. It's so useful and easy to pull up data that is important to you. I think jumping on to kind of our next topic in the outline today is the work planning view. So if you go into your tasks, so when you're pulling up a project, you just want to make sure you have the resources available. And the work planning view is great because it really gives you that calendar view of everybody's tasks. And it updates in real time. And before I kind of explain what all this means on this page, I just want to take your attention on the legend, which will do a lot of the explaining itself. But as you can see here, you can see, of course, there's a color code. You can see when someone's over allocated, it would flag you in the red. Not only that, that's quite useful, is you can actually block off time for weekends or staff vacation as well, too. Not only that, you notice some of the tasks are in purple, and that represents draft tasks. And the blue ones are the ones that have been assigned and active. What's useful about the draft tasks is some of our clients, what they choose to do is when you know you have a project coming down the pipeline, but it hasn't necessarily been approved yet, but you do want to make sure you have the allocated resource and you do reserve that time to take on that project when it is in the green and ready to go. You can go ahead and actually kind of put those tasks in the system ahead of time and keep it in draft status. And hopefully that helps you plan ahead. Now, taking your attention in kind of the meat of the work planning view, as you can see here, things are broken down by department and the individuals inside of that department. So we can see that all the designers, all the developers, for example, copywriters. Now, I get asked a lot, Jenny, it's great that you can see things in task view, but how do I see which project it's attached to? And just by hovering over the tasks here, you can see all the details Beth here is working on for each of these tasks. You can see this one particular design task is for a brochure. And we've estimated 25 hours for this task, and Beth already has actually put in 24 hours for this. So she's working on it, and it looks like she might actually beat the deadline. Now, the work planning view is great, but the kind of the second question we get asked is, what if I'm planning projects for a year in advance, or I'm about to take on something that's going to last 6 months? How do I plan for that? And so we actually have something also called the resource link. Now, you might notice when I open up the resource link, it does have an older UI. I know in the near future, we are working on kind of combining the two resources together. But the resource allocation link is still very powerful. So for example, if I know I'm going to take on a project from December to January, I can go in here, filter by dates, and actually see what's going on for everybody. So essentially, you can build a project, you can check all your resources for almost a year in advance or more. So as you can see inside of here, it breaks down all your resources by department, and I'm just going to focus on the designers. Now, in the resource link, the orange and yellow here show forecasted. So just a quick rundown on the colors here. Yellow is for essentially anything that's been open and scheduled with hours, but not yet converted into a live job yet. And, oh, actually, my apologies, I got that mixed up. The yellow is for open schedule with hours, but not yet converted to a job yet. And the orange is anything over allocated that's been not yet converted to a job. In regards to the green is your workload that is active. And the red is your workload that's active that's been over allocated. So as we can see here, first it breaks it down by department, and then it breaks it down by the individuals. There's Beth, and Darren. And we can see Beth is in, today she's working really hard. She's actually been over allocated by 6 hours. And you can actually click on that and see exactly what Beth has on her plate today. And you know what? Referencing back to that, Darren down here looks like he has nothing to do today. What's going on? Let's reassign this to Darren. And I'm going to submit. You know what? I'm going to give Darren this also to do as well too. And submit. Let's just go back to the resource allocation. So actually that took away most of Beth's work today. We're going to give Beth a bit of a break this week. She's been working really hard, and that reallocated that work to Darren there. I'm just going to take a quick pause here and check in with Carrie. How are we doing in regards to the resource and work planning view? Any questions towards that?
We do have one great question from Matt, which is something that I would want you to touch on, is really kind of what he wanted to understand is the hours for the resource allocation view. Does it distribute evenly across all of the days as it does with the work planning view? So I'm not sure if you want to take that question or if you want me to go ahead and answer that for Matt.
Yeah, Matt, that's actually a really great question. I get asked all the time. When you are assigning them, what it does is it pushes everything to the due date and works back. So Carrie, I know that was a very simplified explanation, but Carrie, maybe you can help me expand on that.
Yeah, so just a couple things is so with the resource allocation, it specifically starts from the due date and like Jenny says, it basically puts the hours kind of back based on the hours that you have in there. So if you have an 8-hour day, for example, what it will do, and you have 10 hours, is it will take 8 hours on the day before it's due, and then 2 hours will go into the next day. So it doesn't evenly distribute it as it does in the work planning view. So for example, so it kind of backloads it. One thing to kind of really kind of as best practices is always have a due date in there, okay, for those tasks. And that's important for the resource allocation. When we look at the work planning view one, to what Matt was asking is the work planning view will evenly distribute that. So if you've got 10 hours and you've got it over a 5-day work week, what it's going to do is it's going to just put 2 hours a day in there, evenly distributed. So there are two different ways of kind of looking at how your resources are allocated and what that is. And it's a work in progress, but it's everybody works differently. So these two views really can be helpful, but understanding whether how they are actually distributed is very helpful.
Amazing. Thank you, Carrie. Well, now that we've kind of
and one more question from Sarah is really the gray boxes. What she wants to ask is if you can go through kind of the legend on the side to show kind of how that work planning view calendar is, and I think the gray boxes is really hours available.
Just to maybe in regards to the gray boxes, does it mean, Carrie? Do you think this is it the gray boxes up on top here?
I would probably go to the resource allocation, or sorry, the other view, so your resource view.
Oh.
And so these gray boxes are really just kind of showing hours available. So if there's nothing there, they could be have some time booked off, the gray boxes.
And actually, if you hover over any of the box, it kind of gives you, it will further explain what that data is showing. So as you can see, I'm hovering over the orange here, it says 90 hours over allocated. And if I'm hovering over a gray box there, it says 43 hours not yet allocated. Sarah, I do hope that kind of answers your question, but if you do wish us to expand, please go ahead and type it in there. Now, we've kind of focused on resource planning and how you can kind of get an idea of how everybody's working and where you can take on more work. Now, if we want to focus on the work that's being done right now in a meeting, another cool report that you might want to pull up is a staff task report. Now I'm just going to go, now speaking of reporting, we're actually currently right now testing out a new reporting module, so that's going to be released soon. Carrie, can you remind me of the actual launch date? Because right now we just have beta testing for it.
I am still in holiday mode, just getting back from vacation, so we will get back to you on that.
I believe it's in a couple of weeks, but do know that is rolling out soon, and we're very excited. Essentially, whatever data you put into Function Point, you're going to be able to curate custom reports. But in the meantime, I'm going to focus on our template reports that we have in here. So for example, if you do want to pull a more organized report to bring to a meeting just to get a quick status update of what's going on, the staff task assignment report is pretty handy. I'm going to do it for, as you can see here, when you click on it, you have lots of options to filter it out. You can run the report on one specific client. I'm going to leave that blank. I want to run a report on all the tasks to do with everything that's going on this month, focus on all jobs that are open, and only tasks that have been assigned and in progress. And click submit. And it's really quickly, it's going to propose, basically curate a snapshot of everything that's going on. So in summary, we're working on, this month, we're working on 4 different client projects. We have a total of 10 deliverables and 18 tasks within those deliverables. And first and foremost, it really breaks it down so you get an overarching view of what's on everybody's workload. And the total number of hours worked. And then going down the report, as you can see here, it breaks it down per those 4 clients that we're working on. So we got Great Atlantic Insurance here. I'm just going to spend some time to break this down. As you can see, we have 6 deliverables for Great Atlantic Insurance, 9 tasks due, a total of 111 hours. And from there, it really breaks it down into all the different tasks and per deliverable. So we got a print ad due. We got a brochure due for them, a second brochure, a landing page, and another landing page. I won't go through all the other clients, but I hope this kind of gives you an idea. Once again, this is quite used often, and a really good summary of all things on the go for the month or for the week to use as well too. Of course, if you do wish to have it a bit more customized, I don't want to kind of undercredit also the Find Task view, very similar to the Find Job view. You can simply go in here and curate your own reports. Put in any filters for your task find view. So I'm going to just go ahead and just do a mass search for Find All Active Tasks so you get an idea of the level of customization you can have. Of course, as you can see here, it really breaks it down to the task details itself and the status, percentage of complete. But maybe you want to go in here and actually have a conversation around estimated and actual dollars and the variance. We're just going to move some columns around so the information is a little more organized. And of course, show you how the printed out report looks like that you can kind of take to your meetings. Now this is quite powerful here. I've actually seen with some of our clients what they do is they actually export this into an Excel doc, and you can run some really fun queries on this if you are Excel savvy as well too, because based on what you've originally estimated and the percentage complete, you can actually forecast what the adjusted rate should be in here as well too. But I won't dive too deep into that today, but know that that is possible as well too. So those are just kind of 2 ways to kind of get status updates in regards to what's currently going on at your agency. And I'm just going to take a pause here and see if we have any questions, Carrie, that we can kind of bring up or you can add on.
We are good right now for questions. I believe I'm as caught up as possible. If you want to, as you were mentioning, if we go back to that task list with regards to exporting, just to quickly show them that basically the CSV in the top right would be able to export the current kind of view or all data, which would be all the columns. So just to kind of elaborate a little bit more on how they might export the data.
Perfect. Hope everyone can see my screen here, and what Carrie was talking about is just the top right corner here. You have two options. You can print into that PDF format that I was showing you earlier. And like I said, if you were experienced in Excel, you can also export this into Excel and play around with the data as well too to get better forecasting for estimated versus actuals, and if you have to make any adjustments in your estimated hours. So I think the last thing to kind of end off on, and it's really fun actually, is probably the utilization report. This is kind of a really great report just to see how each staff member is doing for the company. So I'm just going to go back into our reports here. This seems to be used a lot, especially if you're time tracking and really just making sure that we want to max out everybody's schedules. Let's see. And it is actually called the efficiency report. So you can go in here and put in a date range. So I'm going to say I'm going to run this report for just all of, actually that doesn't make sense, November. So we're just wrapping things up. We just want to quickly analyze how we did in November. Now, excuse my horrid logo on the top right corner here, but essentially, it's what you're looking at here is, I'm just going to enlarge in this a little bit. So what we're looking at here is we can see 4 team members right now, and it looks like, you know, Jenny here needs a raise. She put in 20 hours this month, but not only that, she was, in regards to how hard she's worked, she almost made the company, over $16,000 in billable hours. And you can see what everybody else is doing. We might need to have a conversation with everybody else and see what's going on there. But it really breaks it down into the number of jobs she's worked on, of course, your payroll hours, your total hours worked, your non-billable versus billable hours as well too. Carrie, since you work directly closely with more of the clients on the day-to-day basis, would you say this is probably one of the popular reports being used?
Yeah, and some of it really kind of just depends on the role that you have within the company. And it varies from size of agency to kind of role descriptions. But really, at the end of the day, this is really valuable for you to be able to see kind of the targets of, you know, you would have a role like a graphic designer that you would want maybe more billable than an account manager or a senior executive. So really to kind of monitor kind of the health of what that you're billing as much as you can, and that people are hitting their targets. So really that is set up in the back end, and I'm not sure if you're going to show them where this is set up of how this feeds in.
Thank you, Carrie, for your input there. I was actually, well, this was kind of, I think we kind of, essentially I was going to wrap things up because we kind of went through best practices for reviewing active jobs, resource link, work planning view, but I think we still have a few minutes on our clock, and shall we kind of go into the back end?
I think just to show where you actually set that billable target hours.
Okay,
at the
sounds
staff
good.
level. Really just straightforward so that people understand where that's coming from, because you have it set in the work calendar and where that comes from.
Okay, Carrie, I haven't been back in the back end for a while, so you're going to have to guide me. I'm an admin right now, rate and staff management, and I believe I'm going to go into...
Why don't you go and pull yourself up as a staff? So staff rates and permissions. So just down one more, 2 more, up one. Oh, sorry. Go under, click admin. You're going to go under staff. I always go with the static menu. Scroll down. Staff rates and permissions. Perfect. And then just click your name. And it's just because you have a search here, all staff would show up, but there's nothing in there. So that billable target hours, Jenny is billable for 80% of her hours that she's available. So you will set up that working calendar, and 80% of whatever her work week's like, if it's a 35-hour work week, depending on how much time you get for lunch, that's what that will feed into the utilization report.
I know just something to add on to what Carrie said. I know something unique to Function Point versus other softwares is keep in mind you can keep all this information hidden. So only the prime users or the folks in charge of this will have access to this information. Everybody else will not see what everybody else's hourly costs in billable target hours are. Right? Am I correct, Carrie?
Yeah, not everybody sets their hourly cost. That's a whole different ball game. But really, it's about setting your billable target hours.
Okay, awesome. Well, that kind of concludes today's demo in regards to, and I hope everybody has a takeaway and kind of ideas on how they can configure their dashboards and use all the types of reports and filters to really pull a quick status update and really get an idea of what's going on and where they should focus their attention in the day. I think the key takeaway essentially is if it's in the red, maybe that's where you should be focusing the first hour of your day, just kind of putting out those fires or calling meetings around those items. Carrie, do you have any closing comments in today's webinar?
No, just I think the last thing is that task and to-dos list is to remember that you can get a full page view by going under the task module and selecting tasks and to-dos so that you'll have a full page of the tasks and you can filter there.
Just demonstrating what Carrie has mentioned. And you can also set this up as a dashboard as a shortcut as well too. But that just gives you a full view so you can fit more tasks on your screen. And also I am demoing on a 13-inch Mac today, but if you do have a full screen, you'll be able to see all this in wider view as well too. Well, amazing. It looks like we're finishing in around 35 to 45 minutes there in the clock. Now, keep in mind, if you do have specifics in regards to your own workflow and how you can pull up these reports to speak to what you do on a day-to-day basis, or you need some specific information, please don't hesitate to reach out to your specific CSM for questions or throw them in the chat box. We'll keep this going for a few more minutes, and Carrie can address those as well too. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again for everybody's time. And I will put things on pause.
Have a great day, everyone.